The security footage would replay this moment 1,000 times, but Min Jae-kyung still couldn't believe what he was seeing. His 8-year-old autistic son, who hadn't smiled in 4 years, who flinched at voices, who built walls higher than any fortress, was laughing. Actually laughing. The sound echoed through the Los Angeles estate like music he'd forgotten existed. Hyun-woo sat cross-legged on the marble floor, arranging seashells in perfect spirals, while the new maid hummed softly beside him. She didn't touch him, didn't force eye contact, didn't try to fix him. She just existed in his space, peacefully, safely. "Sir?" Junho's voice cut through his thoughts. "The new staff member is staying," Minji said firmly, watching as Yunwoo carefully placed a shell in Selena's palm, the first gift he'd given anyone since his mother's death. The Korean Mafia boss had conquered territories, eliminated enemies, built an empire of fear and respect. But this black woman from Inglewood had achieved something he couldn't. She'd reached his son, and Min-jae was about to discover that some victories change everything. Welcome to Korean Mafia lovers. Hey there. Please let us know where you're watching from and subscribe to the channel. Your support is essential for us to continue bringing you these incredible stories. The Kang estate stood like a fortress against the Los Angeles skyline, all sharp angles, bulletproof glass, and secrets that money couldn't wash clean. Inside, Min Jae-kyung adjusted his Armani cufflinks and tried not to think about the interview waiting in his study. Another caregiver, another failure waiting to happen. "The agency sent their best," Junho reported, tablet in hand. "Selena Hartwell, 27. Degree in Early Childhood Development. Experience with special needs children." Minji's jaw tightened. Like the others. This one's different. They're never different. Through the security monitors, he watched his son Yoon-woo sitting in the corner of his bedroom, methodically arranging seashells in perfect spirals. The boy's dark hair fell across his face as he worked, small hands precise and deliberate. Beautiful, brilliant, unreachable. 4 years since his wife's death. 4 years since Yoon-woo retreated so far into himself that Min-jae wondered if he'd lost them both in that car accident. The doorbell chimed. Min-jae straightened his tie and walked to the foyer, expecting another nervous college graduate who'd quit within a week. Instead, he found a woman who made him pause. Selena Hartwell stood in the marble entryway like she belonged there, not because of wealth or status, but because of an inner strength that radiated from her dark skin and steady brown eyes. Her locks were wrapped elegantly in a silk scarf, and she wore a simple navy dress that somehow looked more sophisticated than the designer clothes his previous staff favored. "Mr. Kang," she said, extending her hand. Her voice was warm honey over steel. "I'm Selena. Thank you for considering me." He shook her hand, noting the firm grip, the way she met his eyes without flinching. Most people couldn't hold his gaze for more than a few seconds. She held it like she was reading him. "You understand this position involves more than housekeeping," he said, testing her. "I understand your son needs someone who sees him as a person, not a problem to solve." Something in his chest shifted. The previous caregivers tried to change him instead of changing the environment around him. She glanced around the stark, echoing foyer. Children with autism aren't broken. The world around them often is. Minji studied her face, looking for the usual signs. Pity, discomfort, the patronizing smile that said she thought she could fix his son where others had failed. Instead, he found something unexpected. Understanding. "The pay is generous," he said, "but the work is challenging." "I'm not here for easy work, Mr. Kang. I'm here because every child deserves to feel safe in their own home." Before he could respond, a crash echoed from upstairs. Both of them looked toward the sound, something glass shattering followed by Yunwoo's distressed humming. "The current caregiver," Min-jae muttered, already moving toward the stairs. Selena followed, her steps quiet but purposeful. They found chaos in Yunwoo's bedroom. The temporary caregiver, a frazzled woman in her 50s, stood over broken pieces of a lamp, wringing her hands while Yunwoo rocked under his desk, hands pressed over his ears. "He just started screaming when I tried to clean his shells," the woman said defensively. "I was only trying to help organize—" "Stop," Selena said quietly, but with such authority that everyone froze. She knelt slowly on the carpet, several feet away from Yunwoo's hiding spot. She didn't try to coax him out or speak to him directly. Instead, she began picking up the broken glass pieces, her movements deliberate and calm. "Yunwoo," she said softly, not looking at him. "I'm going to clean this up so your room feels safe again. You don't have to come out until you're ready." The boy's rocking slowed slightly. Selina continued gathering glass, humming a melody so low it was almost a whisper. After several minutes, she sat back on her heels and waited. Min-jae watched, transfixed, as his son's hands slowly lowered from his ears. "The shells are still exactly where you left them," Selina said gently. "No one moved them, they're safe." Yunwoo's dark eyes appeared from under the desk, darting quickly to his seashell collection. Then to Selina's face, then away again. "Would you like me to leave so you can check on them?" she asked. A tiny nod. Selina stood gracefully and stepped back, giving him space. Yunwoo crawled out slowly, went to his shells, and began counting them in a whispered sequence only he understood. The temporary caregiver stared in shock. "How did you—" "Respect," Selina said simply. "And patience." Min-jae felt something crack open in his chest. In 5 minutes, this woman had achieved what months of therapy and professional intervention hadn't. She'd reached his son without forcing him to reach back. "You're hired," he said. Selina turned to him, eyebrows raised. "Don't you want to check my references?" "I just saw all the reference I need." As they left Yunwoo to his shells and his quiet, Min-jae couldn't shake the feeling that everything was about to change. This woman, this beautiful, strong, intuitive woman, had walked into his fortress and somehow made it feel like a home. He just didn't know yet how dangerous that would become. Selina's first week at the Kang estate felt like learning to breathe underwater. Everything was beautiful, suffocating, and completely foreign to her world. The kitchen alone was larger than her entire Inglewood apartment. Marble countertops stretched endlessly, reflecting the soft LED lighting she'd immediately dimmed for Yunwoo's comfort. The refrigerator was a technological marvel that probably cost more than her yearly salary, but it was the silence that unnerved her most. In her family's cramped house, there was always noise. Her little sister Lydia practicing piano, her brother Marcus arguing with video games, her mother's gospel music floating from the kitchen. Here, sound seemed to die in the vast spaces, absorbed by expensive rugs and heavy curtains. Except for Yunwoo's whispered counting. She found him every morning in the same spot, cross-legged on his bedroom floor, arranging shells in patterns that seemed random but felt deeply meaningful. He never acknowledged her presence directly, but she noticed small things. How he'd glance up when she entered, how his shoulders relaxed when she hummed while working nearby. "He's never done that before," Miriam, the head housekeeper, whispered one afternoon. They watched through the doorway as Yunwoo carefully moved one of his shells closer to where Selina was dusting a bookshelf. "Done what?" Selina asked. "Included someone in his space. Usually he moves his shells away from people." Selina's heart squeezed. Such a small gesture, but it felt monumental. The real test came on Thursday. Min-jae had been absent most of the week. "Business meetings," Junho explained with the kind of vague authority that suggested she shouldn't ask questions. Selina was grateful. The man's presence filled rooms like smoke, making her hyper-aware of every movement, every breath. She was folding laundry in the sitting room when Yunwoo appeared in the doorway, clutching a small wooden box. "Hi, sweetheart," she said softly, not looking directly at him. "I'm just organizing some towels. You can come in if you want." He approached slowly, stopping just outside her personal space. The box in his hands was carved with intricate Korean symbols. "That's beautiful," Selina said. "Did someone special give it to you?" Yunwoo's voice was barely a whisper. "Ioma." "Mother." Selina's throat tightened. She'd learned from Miriam about the car accident, about how Yunwoo had withdrawn completely after losing his mother. "She must have loved you very much," Selina said gently. Yunwoo nodded, then did something that made her breath catch. He sat down next to her, close enough that she could feel his small presence. They sat in comfortable silence for several minutes before he opened the box. Inside were more shells, but these were different. Polished, iridescent, clearly treasured. "Ioma and I collected them," he whispered, "at the beach." "They're perfect," Selina said, meaning it. "Each one is special." Gernwu selected a small pink shell and held it out to her. "For you." Selina's eyes filled with tears. She accepted the shell with reverent hands, understanding the magnitude of the gift. "Thank you, Yunwu. I'll treasure it." For the first time since she'd arrived, he looked directly at her face. Just for a second, but it was everything. That's when Min-jae walked in. He stopped in the doorway, taking in the scene. His son sitting close to Selina, the open treasure box, the shell in her palm. His expression was unreadable, but something intense flickered in his dark eyes. "Appa," Yunwu said, quickly closing the box and scooting away from Selina. The withdrawal was like a physical blow. Selina watched as the boy's shoulders tensed, as he retreated into himself the way he always did when his father appeared. "I was just," Selina started, "showing her Ioma's shells." Yunwu finished quietly, not looking at either adult. Min-jae's jaw worked silently. Selina could see the pain in his face, the way his son's automatic withdrawal cut him. "That's good," Min-jae said carefully. "Your mother would be happy that you're sharing them." Yunwu nodded but didn't respond, his attention returning to his shells with laser focus. Selina stood, shell still clutched in her palm. "I should get back to work." "Wait," Min-jae said. When she turned, he was studying her with that intense gaze that made her feel exposed. "Walk with me." It wasn't a request. They walked through the estate's garden in silence, past perfectly manicured hedges, and a fountain that probably cost more than most people's cars. The late afternoon sun caught the highlights in Selina's locks, and Min-jae found himself distracted by the way she moved. Graceful, purposeful, completely unintimidated by his wealth. "He's never shared those shells with anyone," Min-jae said finally. "I'm honored that he trusted me with them. You don't understand." He stopped walking, turned to face her. "Those shells are the last connection he has to his mother. He's been protecting them for 4 years. Selina met his gaze steadily. "And now he's sharing that connection. That's not loss, Mr. Kang, that's healing." Something in his expression shifted. "You think I don't know how to help my own son?" "I think you love your son more than anything in the world," she said quietly, "but love and understanding aren't always the same thing." The words hung between them like a challenge. Min-jae stepped closer, and Selina caught the scent of his cologne, expensive, masculine, dangerous. "And you understand him?" His voice was low, almost threatening. "I understand what it feels like to need the world to be quieter, gentler, safer." She didn't back down, didn't look away. "I understand what it feels like to be different." For a moment, they stood there in the fading light, something electric crackling between them. Then Min-jae's phone buzzed, shattering the moment. "Mr. Kang," Junho's voice was urgent. "We have a situation." Min-jae answered without breaking eye contact with Selina. "What kind of situation?" "The kind that requires your immediate attention. And sir, you might want to consider additional security for the house." Selina saw the change in Min-jae instantly, the way his shoulders squared, how his face became a mask of cold authority. This was the man who commanded fear and respect in the darkest corners of Los Angeles. "Go inside," he told her. "Stay with Yunwu. Is there danger? Just do as I say." He was already walking away, phone pressed to his ear, every line of his body radiating lethal purpose. Selina hurried back to the house, her heart racing. As she climbed the stairs to check on Yunwu, she realized something that should have terrified her. She wasn't just falling for the boy, she was falling for his father too. And in Min-jae Kang's world, that could be the most dangerous thing of all. The threat came at 3 a.m. on a Tuesday, shattering the estate's carefully maintained peace. Selina woke to the sound of car doors slamming and urgent voices in Korean echoing through the halls. She grabbed her robe and crept to her bedroom door, heart hammering against her ribs. Through the crack she saw men in dark suits moving with military precision. Some she recognized as Min-jae's security, others were strangers with hard faces and harder eyes. The air thrummed with tension so thick she could taste it. "Yunwu," she whispered, and ran barefoot down the hall. She found him exactly where she expected. Curled under his bed, hands pressed over his ears, rocking in the rhythm that meant he was overwhelmed. The sounds, the chaos, the sudden disruption of his safe space had sent him into complete shutdown. "Hey, sweetheart," she whispered, getting down on the floor. "I'm here." He didn't respond, lost in his own protective world. Selina lay on her stomach and carefully slid under the bed beside him, not touching but close enough that he could feel her presence. She began humming the lullaby she'd learned he loved, something soft and Korean that Miriam had taught her. Slowly his rocking decreased. "The house is safe," she murmured. "Your shells are safe. I'm here, and I'm not going anywhere." That's when Min-jae found them. He appeared in the doorway like an avenging angel, hair disheveled, white shirt partially unbuttoned, a gun holstered under his arm that he'd made no attempt to hide. His eyes swept the room frantically until they landed on the two figures under the bed. "Selina?" His voice was rough with something that might have been relief. "We're okay," she said quietly. Just waiting for the world to get quieter. Min-jae knelt beside the bed, and for the first time since she'd known him, his composure cracked completely. "Yoonwoo? Appa is here." The boy's eyes opened, finding his father's face. "Appa," scared. "I know, son, I'm sorry. The loud noises will stop soon." Yoonwoo reached out tentatively, and Min-jae caught his small hand in both of his larger ones. "Selina stayed," the boy whispered. "Yes," Min-jae said, his gaze shifting to her. "She stayed." Something passed between them in that moment, an understanding, a recognition of what she'd chosen to do. She could have hidden in her room, could have waited for the danger to pass. Instead, she'd run toward his son. "Sir?" Junho appeared in the doorway. "The situation is contained, but we need to discuss security protocols." Min-jae's jaw tightened. "Give me 5 minutes." After Junho left, Min-jae helped Yoon-woo out from under the bed and settled him in his reading chair with his favorite weighted blanket. The boy was calmer now, but still fragile, still processing the disruption. "What happened?" Selina asked quietly. Min-jae was silent for a long moment, watching his son arrange shells in his lap with trembling fingers. Business rivals. They wanted to send a message. What kind of message? His eyes met hers, and she saw something dangerous flicker there. The kind that reminds me why I keep my distance from things I care about. The words hit her like a physical blow. "Mr. Kang Min-jae," he said quietly, "if you're going to risk your life being here, you should at least use my name." "I'm not risking anything. I'm doing my job." He stepped closer, close enough that she could see the exhaustion in his eyes, the weight he carried. "Your job doesn't include putting yourself between my son and danger." "Yes, it does," she said firmly. "The moment I accepted this position, it did." Something shifted in his expression. Surprise, admiration, something deeper. "You don't understand what you're saying." "I understand perfectly." She looked at Yoon-woo, who was watching them with curious eyes. "I understand that little boy needs stability and safety. I understand that he's been through enough trauma. And I understand that running away when things get difficult isn't who I am." Min-jae stared at her for a long moment. Then, without warning, he reached out and touched her face, just his thumb brushing across her cheek, but it sent electricity shooting through her entire body. "You're either very brave or very foolish," he murmured. "Maybe both," she whispered back. "Appa." Yoon-woo's small voice broke the moment. "Is Selina staying?" Min-jae's hand dropped, but his eyes never left her face. "That's up to her." Selina looked at the boy, this beautiful, complex child who'd somehow wrapped himself around her heart. Then she looked at his father, dangerous, powerful, and more vulnerable than he wanted anyone to know. "I'm staying," she said. Relief flooded Min-jae's features. "The security will be increased. There will be more men, more restrictions. It won't be easy." "I didn't come here for easy." He nodded slowly. "There's something else. Something you need to know about me. About what I do. I know enough." "No," he said firmly, "you don't. And before you make any more decisions about staying, about caring about us, you need to understand exactly who you're dealing with." Selina felt her heart racing, but she kept her voice steady. "Then tell me." Min-jae glanced at his son, who had fallen asleep in his chair, shells scattered across his lap like treasures. "Not here," he said. "Tomorrow. When he's safe at school. I'll tell you everything." As he lifted Yoon-woo gently and carried him to bed, Selina watched the careful way he moved, the tenderness in his hands as he tucked his son under the covers. This man, this dangerous, powerful man, was completely undone by love for his child, and she was falling for both of them. "Selina?" Min-jae's voice was soft in the darkness. "Yes?" "Thank you. For staying with him. For—" He paused, struggling with words. "For seeing him as more than his autism." "He's an amazing little boy," she said simply. "He is. And he's lucky to have you." As Selina made her way back to her room, she realized that tomorrow would change everything. Whatever Min-jae told her about his world, about the dangers that came with loving them, she would have to decide if she was strong enough to stay. But as she clutched Yunwoo's shell in her palm and remembered the trust in his eyes, she already knew her answer. Some things were worth the risk, even if that risk was everything. The truth came with coffee and morning light streaming through bulletproof windows. Selina sat across from Min-jae in his private study, surrounded by leather-bound books and artwork that probably cost more than most people's houses. But her attention was fixed entirely on the man before her, how his hands wrapped around his coffee cup like he needed the warmth, how his usually perfect hair was still slightly mussed from the sleepless night. "My father built this organization from nothing," Min-jae began, his voice carefully controlled. "Korean immigrants in the 1980s had few options for protection, for justice. The police didn't care about our communities, so my father created his own system." Selina listened without judgment, watching the way pain flickered across his features. "I inherited an empire built on fear and loyalty, territory disputes, protection rackets, money laundering." He met her eyes. "I've done things, Selina, terrible things to protect what's mine. And now? Now I have a son who flinches when I raise my voice, a son who needs peace, not violence." His jaw tightened. "I've been trying to transition the organization into legitimate businesses. Real estate, restaurants, import companies. But change takes time, and not everyone agrees with my methods. Like the men who came last night. The Park Syndicate, they see my softening as weakness. They want to absorb our territory, our operations." He set down his coffee cup with deliberate precision. "They threatened my son." The words hung in the air like a death sentence. "What did they say?" Selina's voice was steady, but her hands trembled slightly. "That autistic children are fragile, that accidents happen." Min-jae's eyes went cold, and for a moment Selina saw the man who'd built an empire on fear. They made a mistake, threatening him. "What are you going to do?" "What I have to do." He stood, pacing to the window. "But first, you need to leave." Selina's heart stopped. "What?" "This isn't your world, Selina. These aren't your battles. I won't have you caught in the crossfire. You can't just decide that for me." He turned, and the look in his eyes was devastating. "I can't lose you too." The admission hung between them like a confession. Selina stood slowly, moving toward him with careful steps. "You won't lose me," she said quietly. "You don't understand." "I understand that you're scared." She stopped just out of reach, close enough to see the vulnerability he tried so hard to hide. "I understand that everyone you've ever loved has been taken from you, but I'm not going anywhere." "This isn't a choice, Selina. It's not safe. Yunwoo needs me. Yunwoo needs to be alive more than he needs you." The words exploded out of him, raw and desperate. Selina saw him immediately regret them, saw the way his shoulders sagged with exhaustion and fear. "He needs both," she said softly. "He needs his father to come home safe, and he needs the stability I provide. You can't protect him by destroying everything good in his life." Min-jae's phone buzzed. He glanced at it and his face went pale. "What is it?" Selina asked. "They have surveillance photos of you with Yunwoo." His voice was deadly quiet. "They know exactly who you are." Fear shot through Selina's chest, but she forced herself to stay calm. "Then running won't help. They already know about me." "Which is why you need protection I can't guarantee. Or," she said, stepping closer, "it's why you need someone who understands that love is worth fighting for." Before he could respond, Junho burst through the door without knocking, something that would have been unthinkable under normal circumstances. "Sir, we have a problem. Yunwoo's school called. He never arrived." The world stopped. Min-jae went completely still, and Selina watched as every emotion drained from his face, leaving behind something cold and terrifying. "What do you mean he never arrived?" Min-jae's voice was barely above a whisper. The driver says he dropped him off as usual, but the school has no record of him entering the building. Selena's knees nearly buckled. Oh God, they took him. Min-jae was already moving, pulling weapons from hidden compartments, his phone pressed to his ear. Lock down the estate. Call every contact we have, check traffic cameras, security footage, everything. Min-jae, Selena grabbed his arm. Let me help. No. His eyes were black with rage. You've done enough. The words cut like a blade. You don't mean that, don't I? He turned on her and she saw the monster everyone else feared. My son is missing because I let myself get distracted. Because I let myself care about someone I should have kept at a distance. That's not... Get out, Selena. Pack your things and get out. If something happens to Yunwoo because of you... He didn't finish the threat, but he didn't need to. Selena stood there for a moment, watching the man she'd fallen in love with disappear behind walls of ice and fury. Then she lifted her chin and met his gaze with all the strength she possessed. Find him, she said quietly. And when you do, when he's safe and asking for me, remember that you chose fear over love. She walked out of the study with her dignity intact, but by the time she reached her room, tears were streaming down her face. As she packed her few belongings, she could hear Min-jae shouting orders, phones ringing, cars starting. The estate had become a war zone, and she was no longer welcome in it. But as she folded Yunwoo's favorite sweater, the one he'd left in her room after a particularly difficult day, she made herself a promise. She wouldn't abandon that little boy. Not when he needed her most, even if his father had just broken her heart. Selena had been gone for 6 hours when the call came. She was sitting in her cramped Inglewood apartment, staring at Yunwoo's shell and trying not to fall apart, when her phone rang. Selena, Miriam's voice was shaking, you need to come back now. Miriam, I can't. Min-jae made it clear. They found Yunwoo. Relief flooded through her so powerfully she nearly collapsed. Is he okay? Is he hurt? Physically he's fine. But Selena... Miriam's voice broke. He won't speak. He won't eat. He just sits there rocking and asking for you. Mr. Kang. He's desperate. Selena was already grabbing her keys. I'm on my way. The drive back to the estate felt endless. When she finally pulled through the gates, she could see the aftermath of the day's chaos. Additional security vehicles, men with grim faces, the kind of controlled tension that spoke of violence barely contained. Junho met her at the door. He's in his room. The doctor says there's no physical trauma, but he's traumatized anyway, Selena finished. Mr. Kang is with him. He's been trying for hours. Selena took the stairs 2 at a time, her heart breaking with every step. She could hear Min-jae's voice through the door, gentle, pleading, desperate. Yunwoo, please, just eat something, anything. She knocked softly and entered without waiting for permission. The scene before her nearly brought her to her knees. Yunwoo sat in the corner, knees drawn up, rocking silently. His clothes were rumpled, his hair messy, and his eyes held a distance that spoke of trauma too deep for words. Min-jae knelt beside him, looking haggard and broken, an untouched plate of food in his hands. Selena. Yunwoo's voice was barely a whisper, but his head lifted slightly. I'm here, sweetheart, she said softly, moving slowly into the room. Min-jae looked up at her, and she saw everything in his eyes. Relief, gratitude, shame, and something deeper that made her breath catch. He won't talk to me, Min-jae said quietly. He won't tell me what happened. Selena knelt on Yunwoo's other side, careful not to crowd him. Hi, baby. I heard you had a scary day. Yunwoo's eyes filled with tears. They said you left because I was bad. Selena's heart shattered. Oh, sweetheart, no, you are perfect exactly as you are. I left because... She glanced at Min-jae, seeing the pain in his face, because sometimes adults make mistakes when they're scared. Are you staying now? Before she could answer, Min-jae spoke. That's up to Selena, son. I said things I didn't mean. Hyunwoo looked between them with the perceptive intelligence that always surprised adults. Appa was scared too. Yes, Min-jae said quietly. Appa was very scared. The men said they would hurt Selena if I cried, Yunwoo whispered. So I didn't cry, even when they were loud. Selena had to bite her lip to keep from sobbing. This brave, beautiful boy had protected her even while being terrorized. You were so strong, she said gently, but you don't have to be strong anymore. You're safe now. Are you safe? Selina looked at Min-jae, seeing the question in his eyes too. Yes, baby. I'm safe. Yunwoo slowly unfolded himself and crawled into her lap, something he'd never done before. She wrapped her arms around him carefully, feeling his small body shake with delayed reaction. I missed you, he whispered against her shoulder. I missed you too. So much. Over Yunwoo's head, her eyes met Min-jae's. The raw emotion there took her breath away. I'm sorry, he mouthed silently. She nodded, understanding flooding between them. Later, after Yunwoo had finally eaten and fallen asleep in his own bed, Selina found Min-jae on the garden terrace. He stood at the railing, still in his rumpled clothes from the day, shoulders heavy with exhaustion and guilt. How did you find him? She asked quietly. The Parks underestimated how far I'd go for my son. His voice was flat, emotionless. They won't make that mistake again. Selina didn't ask for details. She didn't need to know. He's safe now, she said, because of you. Min-jae turned to face her. When he wouldn't respond to anyone else, when he shut down completely. You brought him back. He brought himself back. He just needed to know he was loved. By you. The words hung between them, heavy with meaning. Min-jae, I was wrong, he said, stepping closer. About everything. About pushing you away. About thinking I could protect him by keeping him isolated. About thinking I could protect myself by keeping you at a distance. You were scared. I understand. No. He reached for her hands, and she let him take them. I was a coward. I've faced down armed enemies, but the thought of losing you terrified me more than any bullet. Selina's heart raced. What are you saying? I'm saying that my son needs you, and I... He took a shaky breath. I need you too. Not as an employee, not as a caregiver, as family. Min-jae, I love you, he said simply. I love your strength, your compassion, the way you see beauty in my son when others see only challenges. I love how you make our house feel like a home. Tears spilled down Selina's cheeks. I love you too, both of you, but your world is changing, has to change, for him, for us. He cupped her face in his hands. I can't promise it will be easy, but I can promise that no one will ever threaten what's mine again. What's yours? She whispered. His thumb brushed away her tears. You, him, this family we've somehow created. Before she could respond, he kissed her, soft at first, then deeper when she melted against him. It was a kiss that tasted of promises and new beginnings, of love strong enough to overcome any obstacle. When they broke apart, Selina smiled through her tears. So what happens now? Now we build something better, something safe, something worthy of him. Min-jae glanced toward the house where his son slept peacefully. Something worthy of you. And the Parks? Min-jae's expression hardened briefly. Won't be a problem anymore. Selina decided she didn't need to know those details either. There's one more thing, Min-jae said, reaching into his pocket. He pulled out a small velvet box. This was my mother's. I want you to have it. Inside was a simple but elegant ring, not an engagement ring, but something more meaningful. A promise ring. A symbol of belonging. Min-jae, I can't... You're already family, Selina. This just makes it official. As he slipped the ring onto her finger, Selina felt the last of her walls crumble. This dangerous, powerful man was offering her everything. His heart, his son, his protection, his future. Yes, she whispered. Yes, yes to all of it. To you, to him, to this crazy, beautiful life. When Min-jae smiled, really smiled, it transformed his entire face. Welcome to the family, Selina Hartwell. And as they stood there in the moonlight, holding each other close, Selina knew that some love stories don't follow the rules. Some love stories rewrite them entirely. Years later, Selina would still find Yunwoo arranging shells in perfect spirals, but now he did it in the sunroom of their new house, a place designed specifically for his needs with soft lighting, quiet spaces, and sensory-friendly materials throughout. The boy who once never smiled now laughed freely, his joy echoing through rooms filled with warmth and love. He attended a specialized school where his unique gifts were celebrated, and his collection of shells had grown to include specimens from beaches around the world, places they'd visited as a family. Min-jae had kept his promise. The organization was now completely legitimate, built on legal enterprises that employed dozens of families from their community. The man who once ruled through fear now led through respect and genuine care for those under his protection. Ioma, Yun-woo called one evening, using the Korean word for mother that had become as natural as breathing. Come see. Selena joined him on the floor, where he'd arranged his shells in a new pattern, a heart shape with the original shell she'd given her at the center. It's beautiful,